Hi, my name is Waylon Olive from Swiftwood Bows, and I'm here to talk to you about bow staves today. Obviously, there's a lot of different kinds of bow woods out there, and there's a lot of ideas about what to do with staves and how to treat them. I'm going to talk to you about some basic principles and what works for me, and you can apply that knowledge generally to a lot of different situations. And if you have some specific questions, feel free to ask. First, I want to talk to you about kind of main qualities that you need to have in a bow wood. There's millions of different species of wood out there in the world. Not all of them are cut out to be a bow. To be a good bow, your wood needs to have tension strength, and tension strength is the ability of a wood to bend and bend and bend without breaking. And on a bow, when a bow is bent, the back of the bow, which is the part that faces away from you when you're shooting, is the part of the bow that bears the brunt of the tension. And the other strength that a bow wood needs to have is strength and compression, which happens on the belly part of the wood, the part of the wood that's being compressed. And wood that has good compression strength is going to bend without the wood cells being crushed, and so that means that after it bends, it's going to spring back into its original shape with little to no damage. And if a bow has good tension strength on its back and good compression strength on its belly, then those are two really important qualities for a bow wood. And the other general quality that the wood needs to have is to be elastic. And I guess the definition that I would give for elasticity when it comes to bow wood is that it's strong yet pliable. I guess the opposite of elasticity would be to be brittle. Obviously, we don't want our bows to be brittle. We want them to bend and bend and then come back to the way that they were before. And every type of wood out there has its own tension strength and compression strength and elasticity. There are some woods out there that have all three in spades, and there are some woods out there, some bow woods that have one but not the other, and we have to get creative with our designs to make up for a lack of compression strength or a lack of tension strength, and make what would otherwise be a marginal bow wood to be a successful bow wood. And we do that through design. So for example, a lot of the white woods out there like hickory, eastern hop hornbeam, oak, maple, are often very high in tension strength. They can bend and bend and bend without breaking, but they are often lacking in compression strength. And the way that we make up for that, this is a hickory bow, this is the first bow I ever made. We make up for it by making a really wide, flat belly. And what that does is it spreads out the compression force over a wider area. All of this wood is now working together to bear the brunt of the compression force, and therefore this bow can bend without damaging the wood fibers. Whereas a bow of yew can be much narrower and have this rounded belly where the compression is concentrated along a narrow band, and it can still, this bow's been shot thousands of times and still has a beautiful straight profile, and that's due to the amazing compression forces that yew can withstand. And if you built a hickory bow with this profile, you could make a bow out of hickory like this, but it would take a lot of set or string follow. The fibers on the belly would get crushed, and it would be a slow shooting bow. Now I want to tell you some basic things that you need to watch out for when you are either cutting wood or buying wood. if you're going out to cut wood in the forest, you need to watch out for a few certain things, pretty much regardless of what kind of bow wood you're using. You want to, especially when you're a beginner, you want to make sure that you're choosing straight, clean wood that is long enough for you to use. You want to set yourself up for success. There's no reason to pick out a really gnarly, knotty stave and try to make a bow out of it. It's not to say that a bow couldn't be made out of it, but you want to get some bows under your belt before you start tackling character wood. So one thing you want to look out for is twist. So this is a U stave, otherwise a very lovely stave, but I don't know how well you can see it, but if you look down the length of it, you can see that it has quite a bit of twist in it. I might be able to turn this into a bow. I think I probably can, but it's not ideal. And when you are looking at a tree, you can often, if you look at the bark, if the bark pattern is kind of twisting up around the tree like the spirals on a candy cane, then that's a bad sign. That means that the grain inside is also going to be twisting. So it might be better to avoid that tree and look for one that's growing more straight. You also want to look out for knots. Those are usually more obvious. This is a hazelnut stave that has some knots. You know, I think there's probably a clean side on this stave that I can get a decent bow out of, but any way I shake it, it's going to be a little bit of a funky stave to make a bow out of. You know, sometimes a tree will have knots on one side and it'll have a clean side on the other one, and that can be worth cutting, and then you just get rid of the side with all the knots. There's an Osage stave that's got a big knot in it, but it's got a wide space that I can work around that knot. I guess if I really wanted to, I could probably include that knot in the bow. Some wood types tolerate knots better than others, so you might want to do a little bit of research depending on what you're cutting. You and Osage can both tolerate knots fairly well, and some other species you want to pretty much avoid knots altogether if you can. Now on this stave is a vine maple, and it shows, it's got a lot of reflex, which is kind of par for the course for vine maple. It tends to pull into reflex as it's drying because of the tension force that the tree was growing under. And some reflex can be a good thing in a bow. This is quite a bit. Like I said, kind of par for the course for vine maple. But as a beginner, you want to look out for not having too much reflex. And if we can imagine that this is the back and this is the belly, if we flip this stave around, this would be deflex then. We would not, you don't want to choose a bow stave that has a lot of deflex. It's going to make for a slow shooting bow. So just keep a general eye out for, you know, what the shape and profile of the stave is going to be. And also you want to look out for obvious decay. If the bark's missing and the sapwood's discolored, there's bad scars on the tree that don't look like they're healed, that can make for a bow that's not really going to be suitable. A little word of wisdom from experience. When I first started cutting staves, it was really easy to get excited when I was out in the woods and I'd see a tree and I'd say, oh yeah, there's definitely a bow in there. You know, I'd cut it down and I'd haul it back to the truck and I'd get it home and I'd split it and I'd seal the ends, and then I'd walk by it a few days later and I'd say, well, what was I thinking? Like, that's a really gnarly piece of wood and there's no bow in there, or that's marginal at best. You know, and then I killed that tree. I went to all that work, and for something that's not really bow material. And so I've learned to be a lot more discerning when I'm out in the woods and take my time looking at a tree, really doing the best that I can to see if there's a bow in there before I cut it and kill that tree and go to all that work. So that's some advice Now once you've cut the tree, different bow woods need different, a little bit different treatment. But the basic principle is that we want to control the drying process after we've cut the stave. And one thing that pretty much every stave will need to have done to it is to seal the ends of the stave. And you can use paint, you can use wax, you can use shellac, you can use sealer, any kind of varnish. It doesn't really matter. But you can use glue. The goal is just to stop really rapid moisture loss out of the ends of the bows, because what that's going to cause is drying cracks or checking. I don't know if you can see on this stave, there's some cracks running along here on both ends. Luckily on this stave, this is just superficial, it's just in the sapwood. I'm going to remove that sapwood anyway on this stave because it's Osage. But if you're not careful, those cracks can run quite a bit deeper if you don't seal the ends. Some types of wood benefit from sealing the back as well. A lot of people do that on Osage to prevent drying cracks on the back. It can depend on the bow wood whether you want to take the bark off right away or leave it on. For example, with yew, I tend to leave the bark on. But with Osage, most of the time we take the bark off. A lot of white woods, the bark will come off super easy and without any detriment to the wood when you cut it. You just have to know your wood and know what it needs. And like I said, if you have questions about specific bow woods, feel free to leave a comment on the video, and I'll try to help you find the right answer. The general goal, like I said, is staying in control of the moisture loss. We need the wood to lose its excess moisture. If you try to make a bow out of wood that has too much moisture in it, it's going to take set. Now the timing on drying your wood can vary. It's going to depend on how thick the wood is. It's going to depend on the humidity of where you're living. There are things that you can do to speed the process up safely. With a lot of wood types, it's perfectly fine to reduce a stave down to near bow dimensions and get it just floor tillered a little bit where it's bending a little bit. You don't want to do any real bending with it. And then obviously there's going to be less wood and it'll dry out faster. Still want to make sure that the ends are sealed up. For your bow, I do not recommend moisture meters. I don't think that they give an accurate reflection of the moisture content of a stave for our purposes. If you're not sure that your stave has waited long enough and equalized, then I think the most accurate way to measure is to weigh your stave on a very accurate scale when you first start, and then just keep weighing it every once in a while. And as it loses moisture, it's going to lose weight, and eventually it's going to stop losing weight because it's going to stop losing water. And when that scale reading hasn't changed for a while, then you'll know that the stave's done losing moisture and that it's equalized with the humidity. And as long as that's low enough, then you're ready to start making a bow out of it. I hope you found this to be helpful. I'll be making other basic bow making videos in this series, and I hope that you'll watch those as well. Please subscribe to my channel, and good luck.